again to answer another one of the most frequently asked questions. And we're starting to get to the point where only 2 people have asked this question, but 2 people, you're welcome. Here we are. What is creative burnout? This is number 3 in the series of facts, FAQs. Yes, I'm reading because I know how, and I will be utilizing the skill that I obtained in my youth right now. So, what is creative burnout? Creative burnout is much like regular burnout in that it's just a form of exhaustion that usually leads to essentially a reduced amount of creativity or in like creative output. So whether or not you actually want to create, the actual act of creating, and also the imagination side of it, where you feel like you've kind of lost the idea or the ability to create new ideas. So yeah, sometimes we call it creative block just because the ideas come less frequently or they stop coming entirely. But this happens to everybody, anyone in with a creative hobby or creative mind of any kind. Like it happens to artists, writers, musicians. It happens to fucking comedians, actors, designers, engineers, whatever. And it's a feeling of missing that inspiration, of arrested drive, like I said, where you feel like there really isn't a drive to create. And then it's also this idea or dread that the next idea is not going to come. So funny enough, this is the first symptom that we tend to notice, just because other signs of exhaustion tend to be normalized in society. And what else is normalized is the overcoming of these symptoms rather than addressing the actual exhaustion. So par exemple, coffee for me is like how I cope with the fact that I don't sleep rather than sleeping. Whoa, what'd you say? Who said that? So how did you get here? So like I said before, if you're experiencing creative burnout, it's probably just because you're exhausted. You've pushed yourself or been pushed too far. You feel like maybe a sense of inadequacy or imposter syndrome, or you've built ambitious goalposts, like perfectionism, where you feel like you can't really meet that goal or that you're not good enough to even try. You might become trapped in repetitive work, so you're making the same shit over and over again, which is also just like makes you want to like gouge your eyes out. Or maybe there's shit going on. Maybe there's stuff going on in your personal life. Maybe your health isn't great. Maybe family stuff, friend stuff. I don't know. Maybe you're going through a breakup. Shit happens. Sometimes these inspire things and sometimes they don't. The point is you're dysregulated, so it makes sense. How do we get out of this? For me, getting out of creative burnout is much like getting out of regular burnout. So it's giving less steam to the expectation machine. For me, I tend to just want to create for the act of creating, and I do it to a non-productive degree where then I'll burn myself out. So it's been really important to me to learn to trust that in those times it's I'm not really in the position to create, right? But to learn to listen to my body, which is a big one. Oftentimes I feel like exhaustion can be rooted in physical, not always, but a lot of times we forget creativity is based in a brain that is inside of a body, and that body needs to be taken care of. And one of the surefire signs for me is when I'm not enjoying myself anymore. If I begin to feel like creating is a chore where I just like don't want to fucking do it, and it feels non-engaging, and especially like not so much for my writing, but for mixed media, it's very hard on my lower back and my wrists. And though I do things to reduce that, hopefully not being a problem in the long run, I can't overdo it because it will become a problem in the long run. So listening to my body and saying like, hey, maybe I'm building a little bit of discomfort, maybe things aren't feeling right, and then going from there. So yeah, if you start to feel like it's creating as a chore, or that it's heavy on your body or heavy on your mind, or you just feel like, oh, fuck, I don't want to keep doing it, like keep going, stop. Like if you have the luxury of not having a deadline, stop. And even if you do have a deadline, like, things can be late. There is no such thing as a marketing emergency. That's what I tell myself as I work in marketing. Did you know that about me? That I have a real job? So yeah, you can kind of end up in this catch-22 with creating, right? Where you expect an idea to come, so you try to force it, you do all these things, you try to make sure that you get this idea, look for it, near and far, and then you never find it because it's not how it works. So that's not the solution, right? Actively seeking out creativity is the symptom, or sorry, a response to the symptom. But the solution is going to come from addressing the burnout, right? So addressing the exhaustion and making sure that you're giving yourself ample time to rest and ample time to basically say up yours to the evil inner voice that is telling you you're inadequate. You're not in the position to hear it. You're too tired. So the reality is you have to set creative boundaries, which is super fun because no one else can set them for you and they're necessary. So yeah, you have to tell yourself when you're done, which is one of the biggest things that I've had to learn. You have to know when to take a break, and you have to prioritize the well-being of you, the creator, because no one else will. And that's not like a no one else, but whatever. It's that you are. You should be your best friend and take care of yourself and make sure you're good, because you have to be honest with yourself or you can't be honest with others, right? And yeah, so if you hope to have a final product on the same thread of honesty, if you want to have an honest product at the end, or a creation, or I don't know, a composition, or whatever it is that you're making, it has to reflect an honest vision, which can only come about through being honest with your capacity and being honest with what you need at that time. It could be sleeping for a week. It could be going out with your friends, burning off some steam. It could be sitting in the grass. It could be going to somewhere that you love. Or it could be something a little bit more stereotypical and like what we view as self-care. It could be a face mask. It could be a spa day, a bubble bath, or just treating yourself, however that might be. So how do we avoid this going forward? There are ways to avoid creative burnout. 1. So this is one that incorporates rest frequently, and it considers at every step of the way the potential for creative burnout to arise. So you go into your day-to-day knowing that this is a possibility, right? We're only human. Our bodies and our minds are subject to the same laws of exhaustion. We aren't machines, right? So knowing that that the capacity for burnout is there, it's important to engage in preventative measures, like just, I don't know, whatever works for you. For me, it's really not just making sure that I'm only painting when it makes sense. I don't paint 2 days in a row, for example. A big one for me is like if I've worked an entire day and I work from home on my computer, if I've worked for an entire day on my screen, I'm not going to write on my computer, because spending like 14 hours on a screen hurts my eyes, and I like my eyes and I want to keep them in tip-top shape. So that kind of goes into the second way of mitigating creative burnout. So again, this is piggybacking off of the first one, but basically you want to make sure that you're taken care of. You should be entering creative spaces with any barriers to your well-being at a drastically reduced rate. Here's a great example. When my water bottle, a little inside knowledge about me, if my water bottle gets to slightly lower than this, we have a bit of a problem. And the problem is that I'm fucking insane and I won't drink it. And if I'm lazy, I won't go fill it up either. I don't know what it is, so it doesn't matter. But the point is that what I'll do instead is I'll make sure this is full before I sit down for a work sesh, whatever that might look like. Sometimes I fill it before I sit in my bed or I sit on the couch, because I know I'm not going to want to get up, but I'm going to need water, So yeah, I just try to make sure that if I'm entering any creative space that I have sort of these like things to maintain my equilibrium, whether that's like comfortable clothes, if it's a fan, if it's hot. So yeah, back to the water bottle. So yeah, making sure that you do these kind of things in advance to ensure your well-being, that these barriers aren't going to be a problem, by using your past self to reinforce your future self. An example I saw there was this course I took on the science of well-being. And one of the things it talks about is like supportive behaviors. So for example, like if you want to go to the gym at 5 a.m, you'll put out your gym clothes the night before, things like that. The more important act is actually setting yourself up for success. But yeah, you'll find a way that works for you. It's more looking at where are your needs being ignored and how can you in advance make sure that barrier is reduced. Know when to stop. This is a big one because, and I'll definitely go into it in a more depth, just because it took me a long time to figure out when to stop. That means not just stopping like in a creative session where you're sitting for 5-6 hours and you're making something, but knowing when to stop overproducing, when to stop a project, when to take a break, because it comes, like creative burnout comes from overproducing or pushing yourself beyond your capacity. It's really important to kind of catch yourself before you get to that point. A good sign for me is when I stop having fun. I never want these things to be not fun for me. And look, there's always things in there that are like more or less enjoyable, but it comes down to like legitimately whether or not this feels good to do. If I'm getting to the point, usually around hour like 4 or 5 of painting, where I'm like, I need to fucking take a break, like I gotta go. Sometimes it's I gotta stop. I'm not having fun, I'm getting frustrated or whatever, or I'm starting to feel like this looks like shit, or the words are wrong, or whatever it is, I have to stop, because that little angry gremlin comes for me when I'm tired, and it's not about my work, it's about me and my capacity at that time. So the reality is that avoiding creative burnout is much like regular burnout in that you have to regularly force yourself to slow the fuck down. So you need to make a routine that's rooted in checking in with yourself, your capacity, and all facets of your well-being. So that's physical, mental, spiritual, emotional. I'm sure there's more that I'm missing. Social is a good one that we don't talk about. Engaging with your community when you're exhausted is really important. Even if you're an introvert, leaning on your support systems. Your writer's block or your creative rut is really just your brain telling you that you need a break and that you need to take some time. Your next idea will come. You don't have to worry about that. That's just like a baseless worry that we obtain because we pull ideas from the fucking ether, so you have no ability to imagine where that idea might come from. So of course it feels like it's not going to come, because where the fuck would it come from? Where did the last one come from, right? But yeah, there's loads of ways to make this routine work, even if it's giving yourself 5 minutes in the sun, if it's calling a friend, if it's taking a break, smoking a joint, I don't know. It could be a mindful cup of water, or it could be filling your fucking water bottle, which I'll do one day more regularly. But here we are. So anyways, it's anything, right? But it needs to be the base of your routine, and it needs to make sense for you and your barriers and what the root cause of that burnout is. And yeah, you'll find that your capacity for creation will begin to feel more accessible. I find that when I start to stray from these kind of tips, that I lose that momentum. And yeah, so it's just knowing when to start, when to begin, all of these things. And yeah. So water. Anyways.